Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a book that's pretty much a modern classic when it comes to getting your finances in order.
It's I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
That's the one. And I think, a lot of people, when they think about personal finance, they kind of get this you know, image of like a scary monster lurking in the
It
shadows.
can definitely be overwhelming.
It really can be. There's so much jargon. Figuring out where to start can be super confusing.
That's where this book really stands out, I think. It cuts through all the noise and all the jargon and gives you these really clear steps you can take.
Actionable steps, right?
Exactly, to build a solid financial foundation. And you don't have to be, a millionaire to get started.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it. It's really for anyone at any stage.
For sure.
One of the things that really stuck with me was how much it emphasized the whole idea of time is money,
Yeah.
but really drove it home. So get this. Imagine two people, we'll call them Smart Sally and Dumb Dan.
Okay, I like it.
Both of them want to invest.
hmm
They both can put away $100 a month. Okay.
Sally starts at 25, does it for 10 years, then stops completely.
Right.
Dan starts at 35, keeps going till he's 65. Same total amount invested, right?
Right.
But here's the crazy part. Smart Sally ends up with about $80,000 more just because she started earlier.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
That's the power of compound interest. And that's really one of the biggest takeaways from this book.
It's like a financial time machine,
Yeah.
just by starting early.
It really is.
So even if we're not all 25 anymore, starting now is still way better than waiting.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts.
For sure. Another thing that kind of blew my mind was how this book really challenges the idea that we need these financial gurus to handle our money.
Right. Like, we always hear those ads, trust the experts.
Yeah, but are they really all they're cracked up to be? I'm always a little skeptical.
And you should be, because Ramit Sethi, the author, actually, he brings the data to back it up.
Right.
He shows that over 80% of those fancy actively managed funds, they actually do worse than just the overall market
Wow.
over a 10-year period. And they're charging you all these fees on top of it.
So you're paying someone to pick stocks when they're basically flipping a coin.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ouch.
Not a great deal.
What about those newsletters and things that claim they can predict, when the market's going to go up or down?
Yeah, those market timing newsletters.
Yeah.
They actually have a pretty terrible track record as well. Turns out it's incredibly hard to time the market consistently, even if you're a so-called expert.
Right. I mean, even during major events, like, we had the 2008 crash, a lot of people who had financial advisors still panicked and made bad decisions.
Exactly. So it seems like one of the big takeaways here is that we have a lot more power than we think when it comes to managing our own money.
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to rely on someone else, especially when their track record might not be much better than chance.
For sure. And that's really what this book is all about. It's about knowledge is power.
Okay, so less gurus, more DIY. But where do we even begin? I still feel like it can be a bit daunting.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
common feeling. But that's where Sethi comes in with this really great concept he calls the automatic money flow.
Okay, automatic money flow. What's that all about?
Basically, it's about setting up your finances to run on autopilot. Think of it like those meal kit services, but for your money.
Oh, I like that.
Everything's portioned out perfectly, delivered to the right place, automatically.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how do we set up this, money meal kit?
Right, well, first you got to understand the main ingredients, or buckets, as the book calls them. There are 4 of them. Fixed costs, savings, investments, and then guilt-free spending money.
Guilt-free spending money. Okay, that sounds dangerous, but also very tempting.
It is all about balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, the key here is to automate each of these buckets. So you set up automatic transfers for your bills, automatic contributions to your savings, automatic investments.
So instead of me, constantly stressing, did I pay that bill? Did I move money into savings? It just happens.
Exactly. It takes out all the guesswork. And, for a lot of people, if it's not automated, it's just not going to happen.
That's
It helps you build these really good financial habits without having to constantly think about it.
Okay, so money meal kit, check. What about budgeting? Is this one of those books that's track every penny, super strict?
Actually, that's where things get really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sethi actually throws out the traditional budgeting model and introduces this concept called the conscious spending plan.
Okay, conscious spending plan. Tell me more.
So instead of obsessing over every single purchase that you make, it's about figuring out what you really value and are willing to spend money on, and then cutting back ruthlessly on the things that don't matter as much to you.
Okay.
He has this great example in the book of this woman named Lisa who spends $21,000 a year going out with friends and traveling.
$21,000. That's a lot of dinners and plane
Right.
tickets.
And she does it guilt-free
Wow.
because she's super strategic about the rest of her spending.
Yeah.
She's cut back on things that aren't as important to her, like cable TV or, fancy coffee every day.
So it's not about being a miser, it's about making conscious choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your spending with your values
Okay, I like that.
so you can have the things that you really care about.
This kind of reminds me, actually, I was reading something recently about how banks make a ton of money off of fees,
Oh, yeah.
especially overdraft fees.
Absolutely.
It felt like a trap.
Yeah, and this book actually exposes those tactics and gives you ways to fight back.
I'm all ears, tell me everything.
One of the key things is you actually have more power to negotiate those fees than you think.
Really?
Yeah, he actually provides these scripts for calling your bank and asking for fee waivers.
Wow.
And it even tells you what not to say so
Yeah.
you don't accidentally shoot yourself in the foot.
There's a script, he actually tells us what to say.
Yeah, it's really cool. It just shows how being informed and prepared can make a huge difference.
Okay, so we're automating, we're spending consciously, we're fighting back against bank fees. This is already feeling empowering.
It is.
What else is in store for us on this deep dive?
Well, we've only scratched the surface. Next, we'll be diving into the sometimes intimidating world of investing. But don't worry, we'll break it down and make it easy to understand.
All right, sounds good. Stay tuned, everyone, because this is just the beginning.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
Welcome back, everyone. So last time we were talking about getting our finances kind of set up to run themselves.
Right, like on autopilot.
Yeah, and that whole idea of spending on what really matters to you, not just following some, generic budget.
Conscious spending.
That's it. But now I want to talk about something that I'll admit used to make my eyes kind of glaze over.
What's that?
Investing. It always felt like this big, complicated thing only for Wall Street people,
Yeah, I get that. It can definitely seem intimidating.
But Sethi really does a good job of demystifying it in this book.
He does. He makes it very accessible.
Yeah, so no fancy finance degree required.
Nope, not at all.
Okay, that's a relief. But still, if we're not going to rely on those financial experts like we talked about before, how do we actually get started? Like, where do we put our money?
Well, he lays out a really clear path in the book,
Okay.
one that really prioritizes long-term growth and keeping those fees low.
Okay.
And the first step is understanding this concept called asset allocation.
Asset allocation.
Okay.
Is this where my eyes start to glaze over again?
No. Don't worry. Think of it like building a pizza.
A pizza. Okay, I'm listening.
You wouldn't want just pepperoni on every slice, right?
Yeah.
You want a variety of toppings to
Yeah.
make it interesting and satisfying.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to all pepperoni, but I get your point.
So in investing your toppings are different asset classes,
Like what?
like stocks and bonds.
Okay.
Stocks represent ownership in companies.
Mm-hmm.
Bonds are kind of like loans to governments or corporations.
Okay.
And diversifying your investments across these different asset classes helps spread the risk.
Got it. So if one topping, let's say mushrooms aren't doing so well,
Yeah.
the whole pizza isn't ruined.
Exactly. The other toppings can pick up the slack. That's why diversification is so important.
Okay, so how do we figure out the right mix of toppings? Like, is there a secret recipe?
Well, one way is through what are called life cycle funds.
Life cycle funds? I think I've heard of those.
Yeah, they're basically like pre-made pizzas designed for different stages of your investing journey.
Oh, yeah, they're the ones that adjust based on, like, how close you are to retirement, right?
Exactly. So when you're younger, they typically lean more towards stocks because those have the potential for higher returns.
But also higher risk, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always a trade-off. But then as you get closer to retirement, they gradually shift more towards bonds, which are generally less risky.
So it's like starting with a spicy pizza when you're young and then gradually moving towards a more mellow one as you get older.
I like that analogy.
Okay. But what about those of us who like to customize our pizzas? I mean, our investments. What if we want a little more control over what goes into it?
Well, Selen definitely encourages people to learn more about different types of stocks and bonds. There's small cap stocks, large cap stocks, international stocks, government bonds, corporate bonds. The list goes on.
Okay, my head's spinning a little bit. All those different types.
Yeah, it can be a lot. But don't worry, you don't need to become a Wall Street expert overnight.
Okay, good. Because I don't think I have it in me.
The book actually provides a model portfolio.
A model portfolio.
Yeah, it's based on the work of this really famous investor named David Swensen. He managed the Yale endowment.
Oh, wow. So we can just like copy his homework?
It's not about blindly copying, but it's a really great starting point.
Okay.
And once you have this basic understanding of asset allocation, you can start feeding those retirement accounts we talked about before.
Ah, yes. The 401k and the Roth IRA.
The dynamic duo of retirement savings.
Why are those so important, Ken?
Well, your 401k is typically offered through your employer, and a lot of times it comes with this amazing perk called employer matching contributions.
Employer matching. Isn't that like free money?
It basically is. Say you contribute 5% of your salary to your 401k. Your employer might match that with another 5%.
Wow.
So you're essentially doubling your investment right off the bat.
Okay, I'm definitely paying attention now.
It's a 100% return. You can't beat that.
That's incredible. I can definitely see why people say contribute as much as you can.
For sure. And then Roth IRAs are also awesome, especially for young adults,
What's so special about Roth IRAs?
where you contribute after tax dollars, but then all the withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
Wait, so the money grows tax-free? And I don't have to pay taxes on it when I retire.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
It's a really powerful way to build wealth for the future.
Okay, so we're automating, we're consciously spending, we're investing in these low-cost index funds through our 401k and Roth IRA.
Yeah,
This is starting to feel a lot less overwhelming than I thought it would be.
that's great. And remember, the goal here is to really simplify and automate as much as possible.
Yeah.
And once you have this system in place, it's all about maintaining it and just making adjustments as needed.
So it's like setting up a self-cleaning oven,
Yeah, kind of.
put in the F8 up front, and then just got to wipe it down every now and then.
Exactly.
The book emphasizes that staying the course is important, even when the market gets a little bumpy.
Yeah, for sure. Those ups and downs can be a little scary.
It's like watching your pizza toppings shrink in the oven.
But remember, time is on your side. The best approach is just to ride it out. Keep investing consistently and let that compound interest work its magic over the long term.
So no need to like panic and sell everything when the market takes a dip.
Definitely not. Panic selling is rarely a good idea. It's like taking your pizza out of the oven before it's fully cooked.
Good point. So we're staying calm, trusting the process. Anything else we need to do to like maintain our investment pizza?
Well, Sethi also talks about this concept called rebalancing,
Rebalancing.
which is basically making sure that your asset allocation stays on track.
Okay, remind me what asset allocation is again. Is that our pizza topping mix?
It's exactly. As your investments grow, the percentages that you've allocated to different asset classes might drift away from your target.
Okay.
So rebalancing involves selling some of the investments that have performed well and buying more of those that have lagged behind,
So it's like making sure all the toppings are evenly distributed.
pretty much.
We don't want one side overloaded with pepperoni while the other side's bare.
A great way to visualize it.
Uh,
And luckily, a lot of investment accounts nowadays actually offer automatic rebalancing features.
so you don't even have to think about it.
Exactly.
Wow. This is really starting to feel a lot less intimidating than I initially thought. It's like having a personal pizza chef who just takes care of everything.
That's a great analogy.
Speaking of feeling empowered, didn't he also say something about not letting fear, especially the fear of taxes, drive our investment decisions?
Yes. He's a big advocate for not letting the tail wag the dog when it comes to taxes.
Okay.
Tax optimization is important, but it shouldn't be your primary focus. The goal is to build wealth, and sometimes that means accepting a certain level of tax liability.
So don't get so caught up in like saving a few bucks on taxes that you miss out on bigger growth opportunities.
Exactly.
Yes.
Focus on the big picture. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
This whole deep dive has been a whirlwind of information. From automating our finances to choosing the right investments, it's a lot to digest.
It can be overwhelming, but remember, you don't have to implement everything at once.
That's true.
Start small, build gradually, and stay consistent.
Small steps, consistency, long-term mindset.
Exactly.
Speaking of small steps, there's one more area I want to revisit from earlier.
What's that?
Those pesky bank fees.
Ah, yes.
We talked about them before, but I think it's worth diving in a little deeper.
I agree. Those fees can really add up.
Seriously, how are those even legal? It feels like a trap.
I know. And Sethi really breaks down all the ways that banks make money off these fees, especially those sneaky overdraft charges.
Yeah, it's like they're designed to get you, especially when you're maybe younger and not as financially savvy.
It can feel that way. But he also gives some really good practical advice on how to negotiate those fees.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me everything.
So the key is to be prepared, be persistent, and know your rights as a customer.
Okay.
He actually tells this great story in the book about how he negotiated his way out of a $20 overdraft fee.
Oh, I love that story. It's like if he can do it, we can do it too.
Exactly. And it all starts with a simple phone call.
Okay, so what do we say when we call the bank? Do we just like beg for mercy?
He actually provides a script in the book a step-by-step guide for how to approach the conversation.
Wait a script. He tells us exactly what to say.
He does.
That's amazing.
And it even outlines what not to say. Because there are certain things you can say that will pretty much guarantee that the bank will say no.
This is gold. I'm so tired of feeling powerless against those bank fees. It's like they're speaking a different language, and I'm just supposed to nod and say, yes, sir, may I have another?
It's all about being informed, being prepared, and advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
You have more power than you think.
Okay, so we're automating, we're investing, we're consciously spending, and we're fighting back against those bank fees. Anything else we need to add to our financial toolkit?
Well, no personal finance discussion would be complete without talking about credit cards.
Oh, yeah. Those can be tricky.
They can be. They're definitely a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
They're super convenient. They offer rewards. But they can also lead to a lot of debt if you're not careful.
For sure. So is he saying we should, like, swear off credit cards altogether?
Not necessarily. He actually talks about how to use them strategically.
Okay.
So he really emphasizes the importance of understanding how credit card companies make their money.
Like the interest rates and fees.
Exactly. Those can snowball really quickly if you're not paying attention.
So it's not about avoiding them, it's about using them to our advantage.
Precisely. He gives some really good strategies for optimizing credit card usage.
Like what?
Well, he talks about things like negotiating fee waivers, understanding rewards programs, and maintaining a good credit score.
Okay. Yeah, those are all super important.
It's all about using credit as a tool to build your financial foundation, not letting it control you.
Okay. This is all so empowering. It's like we're finally taking charge of our money instead of letting it rule our lives.
That's the goal. And that's what this book is all about. I Will Teach You to Be Rich gives you the knowledge, the strategies, and the motivation to build a rich life on your own terms.
I like that. But this isn't the end of the journey, right? There's always more to learn.
That's absolutely.
And ways to keep optimizing our financial game plan.
You're right. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the more advanced strategies from the book.
Okay.
And we'll provide some additional resources to help you continue on your path to financial success. But before we get to that,
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And we've covered a lot, right?
we have, we've talked about automating our finances, conscious spending, investing, even how to outsmart those bank fees.
It's been a whirlwind. But there's one biggie we haven't tackled yet, and that's debt. It's something that so many people struggle with, especially things like student loans and credit card debt.
Absolutely, it's a big one.
It can feel like this giant weight that's holding you back from actually achieving your financial goals. So does Sethi offer any hope for those of us drowning in debt?
He does. He actually has a whole section on it.
Okay, good.
And he lays out this really clear 5-step plan for getting out of credit card debt. And the best part is it's all actionable stuff. There's no vague advice. It's like, here are the steps you can take right now.
I love that. Okay, hit me with step 1. What's the first step to freedom?
First, you got to face the music. You
Wow.
got to gather all your credit card statements and figure out exactly how much you owe.
Ooh, that sounds scary.
It can be a little daunting to see those numbers. Knowledge is power, right?
I imagine that's a tough step for a lot of people. It's like stepping on the scale after a holiday feast. It's not going to be pretty, but I got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And once you have that clear picture of where you stand, you can start making a plan. Which leads us to step 2. No more digging the hole deeper. Cut up those credit cards. Or even better, freeze them in a block of ice.
Freeze them in a block of ice. I love that visual. It's like those dramatic movie scenes where they're destroying the evidence out of sight, out of mind.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
The goal is to stop accumulating new debt while you're working on tackling what you already have.
Makes sense. So no more impulse buys or retail therapy on those cards. What's next?
All right, so step 3 is where it gets really interesting. Sethi actually recommends calling your credit card companies and negotiating lower interest rates.
Wait, we can negotiate with credit card companies? I thought those rates were set in stone.
You'd be surprised how often it actually works. It goes back to those negotiating skills we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Be prepared, be polite, but persistent. And don't be afraid to ask for a supervisor if the first person you talk to isn't helpful.
So we've faced our debt monster. We've frozen our credit cards. We've tried to sweet talk those credit card companies into lowering those interest rates. What's next in our debt slaying quest?
All right, well, step 4 is about actually creating a plan of attack. So you got to figure out how much you can realistically afford to pay towards your debt each month.
Okay.
And he recommends paying more than the minimum, even if it's just, an extra $50 or $100. Every little bit helps chip away at that principal.
This is where that conscious spending plan comes in handy, right? Finding areas to cut back and free up more money to throw at that debt.
Exactly,
Hmm.
because every dollar you put towards that debt is a dollar that's not accruing interest. So you're actually saving yourself money in the long run.
Like that snowball rolling downhill, right? The faster you pay down that principal, the faster that debt shrinks.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the final step?
The final step is the most important one. Take action and celebrate your wins. So stick to the plan, track your progress, and give yourself a pat on the back every time you hit a milestone. He even suggests marking the date you become debt-free on your calendar and planning some kind of reward for yourself.
I love that. It's important to acknowledge those victories and stay motivated, especially when it's a long journey. It's like training for a marathon. Those little milestones keep you going.
That's a great analogy.
And you know the feeling of being debt-free, priceless.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground with this book, from automating our finances to, slaying the debt dragon. But I want to touch on something that really resonated with me throughout I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And that is, it's not just about accumulating wealth, it's about building a rich life. And those aren't always the same thing, are they?
They're not, no. And Sethi really encourages readers to define what a rich life means to them. It's not just about the money. It's about using money as a tool to achieve your goals, to create experiences, and to live a life that's aligned with your values.
Yeah, it's about more than just, the numbers in your bank account. It's about
Right.
freedom, security, and having the resources to pursue those things that light you up.
It's about designing a life that you love.
I love that. So it's about making your money work for you, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been a whirlwind, and I want to thank you for joining me and walking us through all these ins and outs of I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I feel like I've learned so much.
It's been my pleasure.
To everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive and that you feel empowered to take control of your financial future. Remember, you don't have to be a financial expert to make smart choices and start building a rich life today. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep chasing those rich life dreams.
That's it for us.